Hey, welcome to the shop. My name's Jamie. We are working on a very old Brown & Sharpe #2 surface grinder. Judging by the serial number, this was made before 1919. And this manual is not exactly the right one, but it'll get us close. Today we're going to look at these three parts. We've got this main wheel, 663, and this tensioner wheel, 310. So 663 is the idler pulley, and the 3100 is the belt tightener pulley. Those two pulleys are held on this item, 2528, which is the belt tightener frame. All of these things have problems, and it all has to do with improper maintenance. So this frame has a number of things going on with it. It's been broken at some point. It's been repaired. It's been brazed together. For all I can tell, it looks like a decent repair. I've never brazed before, so can't say for sure. But you can look inside here and see some pretty good gouging where the wheels, being so loose on their pulleys, have gouged the frame. That's all over, front and back, both the idler and the tensioner pulley. And then after I cleaned these up, which took a lot of time, I noticed that this guy has a crack right here. So that's important in my repair because I'm very leery. Again, I don't have brazing skills, and this piece acts as a pivot, so I don't see that there's a lot of torque underneath it. But I'm not prepared to fix that crack at this point. And so therefore, I'm very leery about removing these bearings in a press because I don't want to break that off. So I'm going to be working around that, which means that these bushings need to stay in place. So as you can see by these wear patterns, that this product, or this part, has had a lot of problems. If we start with the idler pulley, take a look at that. The idler pulley has, pressed in, looks like bronze bushings. But the spindle that goes into it, you can clearly see, is very worn. This has not been treated very well. And the amount of play in here is significant. So that's a problem. It also looks, actually it looks like this idler pulley was also brazed at one time, like it was dropped. So this surface grinder has seen a lot of use, and unfortunately it looks like a lot of abuse. Coming back to the idler pulley where it mounts into the frame, these guys also have, if you can hear that, they've got a fair bit of play. So the question is, how do I approach fixing that? So we'll park that guy over to the side. The belt tensioner pulley is another story altogether, but it's written by the same author. So this guy goes in here and there's just mountains of play. And, this bushing, you can see, has significant wear on it. Now, at some point, somebody fixed this, put it together. I just don't think they've ever lubricated it since that time. Everything here is very loose. And I guess the good part about this, this pin does not need to rotate. This is a fixed pin, and this actually fits pretty well when you push it in. And there's a couple of set screws to hold it together. So the outside portions of the spindle fit into those journals pretty nicely. And then there are slots that will, or sorry, keyways, not keyways, set screws that will come down and hold this in place. So this is actually something that I can fix off of and not have to change the outside diameter of these parts. As far as the bearing repairs go, because of the fixed nature of some of the pieces on the housing, I had to think very carefully about how I'm going to create a bearing to fill those voids. And what I've done, or what I've planned on doing, is for this main idler shaft bearing, I've bought this piece of bronze oiler bushing from McMaster Carr, which is slightly larger than the bearings in the rack, and the interior diameter or the inner diameter I can bore out to slide over this shaft. So I'm planning on cleaning this shaft and then boring the interior diameter so that there's just enough tolerance to allow for the grease to go through and actually lubricate the rotating action. And then I will true the outside up to size so that it'll fit nicely in here. That's my plan. For the belt tensioning pulley, that one is, I've got this 3-inch piece, and my hope is that I can basically recreate this item that was on there, but do it in such a way that I still maintain the exterior diameters. And I think I have a little bit of play where I can bring this down just enough to slide the new bushing over the top of it and have it hold that bearing nicely. And if I've done my math right, I might actually have a little bit of extra on this piece to make some thrust bearings to prevent some of that side-to-side movement that was happening. So that's the plan. Let's see if we can get it done. Way too fast. Lots of time to slow down. So we made some progress. I turned down the spindle, the main spindle here, to a consistent diameter. I decided here I'm actually going to use a little bit of shim stock, trying to get the bushing out of the case on the surface grinder was nearly impossible. So this is a fixed piece. I'm just going to shim it so that it'll tighten nice and square and tight. So the other thing I've done, so we've made a new bushing that will fit nicely over the spindle. I still need to cut a grease groove here. Haven't done that yet. So this fits nice. There's about a thou of clearance. And then this bushing will press nicely into here. So I'm going to head out to the trailer and grab the press to do that. And then I made these thrust bushings that will go from this inboard side. Those will get pressed in. This will be in between them on the pulley and should work really nicely. Yep. There we go. So that fits there. That fits there. Now, and again, hopefully, so this is what it would look like inside the bracket. And that will give nice no play fit. So we'll see a lot better improvement with that. Let's head over to the press and press this into the pulley. Okay, let's see if the spindle still fits. Ooh, it's tight. Okay, so it definitely shrunk up a little bit, and that spindle is a little tighter than I would like it to be. Yeah, it looks like my left-hand side, so this side here must have squeezed in a little bit more. So that side is the side closest to here. So what I'm going to do, so change of plans. I'm actually not going to touch the spindle because the spindle already has a nice fit on both ends with these thrust washers. So if I go ahead and make that spindle smaller just to fit the pulley, then I'll have a problem here. So because the problem is this half, or this first like inch or so, just got squeezed in just enough. And when this is getting installed, it will be installed this way. And so I need to make this part of the bushing ever so small. So we've got the Dremel tool. Got a fine grit on here. We'll take it slow. Bring down some of that bushing. And make it fit. There's some comment around machinist Plumbers, plumbers have putty and paint. Machinists have emery and Dremel tools to make things work. And that's what we're going to do here. Okay, much better. Custom fit, pay extra for that. But there's that little bit of a high spot, I think, right here. All right. So that's that. Next, we're installing these thrust bearings. Okay, so the thrust bearings pretty much go on either side. This is the part that took most of the wear, actually, yeah. So we're going to put the slightly thicker one on that side because they're essentially the same. And what I'm really hoping works is that, because these are all ground independently, is that I really hope that they're true, that they're square, and that when I put this in, that it'll slide through nice. Now, we will see how that works. And if we need to, we've got a Dremel tool that we can use to do that. So let's see about squeezing these in here. Let's come over to the vise. All right, let's see if we can get this guy up in there. Oh yeah, that should work. That should work. All right, come on. All right, that's in nicely. And now let's just test to see if that guy shrunk. And it did. It either shrunk or it probably went a little bit off perfectly center because it's so thin. And if these old ones, which we already knew were a mess, if these aren't perfectly round, it's gonna contort that. So I think there'll definitely be some dremeling in our future. But while we're here, let's pop in the other one and we'll work them both at the same time. Yeah, you can kind of feel these are going in a little bit tight. So I've got a feeling there'll be some tuning up that we'll have to do. But that's okay. We can figure that out. All right, I've dremeled out both sides independently, meaning I dremeled out this one so that the shaft can go through, and then I dremeled out this one so the shaft will go through. Now the question is, will they go through together at the same time? So instead of me showing failure all by myself, I thought I would share it with you just in case it doesn't work. All right, so it's tight here. I think I have a high spot on this this shaft here. But if I get past that, can I get into there? Oh, wow, okay. Almost. That's actually a lot better than I thought it would be. So let's get this guy out of there. And yeah, it's a little bit. Now, fortunately, it doesn't spin on these bearings. The only thing that happens here is this mechanism moves up and down as the spindle head adjusts up and down. I'll show you that probably in a different video when we connect the belt. So this is really just pivoting on here. So it doesn't have to be as free flowing as the pulley is, but we don't want it to be jammed in there either. So I think what I'll do, starting with the back one, I'm gonna create a little bit more relief because of that high spot, and see if that frees up the whole pinion going through. As you can see by all the dust, I had to hit it a little bit more, but it did work out. So, you know, it's a pretty tight fit, or it's tight. I could probably loosen it a little bit, but there will be lubricant in here, whether it be grease or oil. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to set it up with. And again, I still need to do the grease trap there. Okay, so that is a step forward. Now, let's see if this pulley even fits between here, because if my measurements were right, the thrust bearings should squeeze right in between, and actually looks pretty good. All right, so now let's see if we can put all these parts together. All right, there you are. Okay, there it is. Okay, so that's in. And then, all right, now that feels a little tight. I'm not sure if it's the thrust bearings or if it's the, you know, kind of everything that we've just been doing here. But let me clean this up, and we'll take a look at it with a little bit of oil on there so it's not all totally dry. Okay, so we've got it all together. It's clean. It's got a little bit of lubricating oil in there. This Gibbs product is really good. I use it for a lot of things. You know, there's no play. Can't feel any play in here. The thrust washers seem to be, this one's got, sorry. Here's a, it's hard to tell, but it looks like there's a little gap there. So it's, you know, it's not freewheeling the way I might expect it to. So I'm not sure, it's my first time doing this. I'm not sure if that's normal. Any comments there would be appreciated, but it's not wobbling, which again, before this thing was terribly, terribly wobbling. I think what I might do here, because it just feels a little tight, and I'm not getting any end-to-end play here, so I wonder if I'm right up tight against those thrust washers. So I'm just gonna Dremel a little bit off of one of them and see if that opens this up. I think that might be what's kind of holding this up. Now that would probably just wear away in its own due time, but I can't imagine that that's a good proxy. So let me do that and we'll get right back to you. All right, we're back. It was indeed the thrust washers were a little bit too tight up against the pulley, so ground down a little bit off of the pulley and the thrust washers, and we're getting a much better glide now. Still really can't feel any play, so I'm very happy with that. Still needs to be cleaned up and oiled, but that I'm gonna say is, except for the grease grind that I need to do, this is done, and that looks great. Here it is. Here's the idler pulley installed. This is got a little bit of tension on it. This nut here, you can see I haven't cranked it all the way down, because the more you crank it, the tighter it squeezes on that idler. So it just needs to have just enough. So I've Loctited this. I've got this lock washer to keep pressure on it. And I think what we'll do is we'll mark it just to see if it backs off at all. I did opt for grease. It felt like the right way to go, because there was grease in there before. And it's got, no play. I do wish this was a little bit looser, but we'll run it for a little bit and see how it goes. And then next, we'll be working on that belt tensioner pulley. And in a future episode, I'll kind of walk you through what I did with the electrical. I put in some new cord. I grounded the motor, make it a little bit safer, and I've got it set up to run into my 3-phase power generator. All right, that's where we are for today. See ya. So a preview for the next video is preparing the bushing and shaft for the belt tensioner. So this guy goes in like this. And you can see there's just a lot of play here. Everywhere it's loose. It's bumping up against the sides. So we're going to need to make another bushing. We've got some material here. We're going to take what we learned from the first one and try to work a bushing that will hopefully provide some thrust, a thrust bearing as well. This thing's gone. So that's the plan. That will be another day, because this has been about all day working on this one. And I think we're going to call that a wrap. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. It's really my first video on this project, and in general with anything to do with machining. So if it was helpful in any way, hit like, subscribe, because I'll be doing some more. If you didn't like the video, hit like anyway, because maybe other people won't like it. And they maybe get a laugh out of it too. But anyway, it's been fun so far. We'll see how the editing goes. But till next time, thanks for visiting my garage.